afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar. So nice to be back on campus after some months of staying at home, even if it's just in a dark studio.
Yeah.
My name is Marijke Steehouwer. I'm the coordinator for international affairs in the Faculty of Science and Technology, and I'm here today with Hanna. Can you introduce yourself?
So I'm Hanna. I'm currently a third-year master's student. I do a double master's, so I do both nanotechnology and the molecular and materials track from chemical engineering. And besides that, I play field hockey here on the campus, and I live together with my boyfriend close to the city center.
Wow, that sounds like a pretty busy life, a double master program.
Yeah, well, it sounds very busy, but actually it's not much more difficult than doing one master's. The main thing is that you take longer. So instead of taking 2 years to complete your program, for double masters you would take 3 years. And in my case, I have a bit of delay, so I take about 3.5 years.
Okay, so you don't have to do everything in the same time.
No.
And it helps, of course, that both master programs are in our faculty, are in the same faculty.
Yes, that really helps. Also with the courses, some courses are obligatory for both. So I don't have to do double the amount of courses. I only have to do half extra.
Yeah. And for you guys, I mean, chemical engineering and nanotechnology, the programs that Hanna is taking are just 2 of the programs that we offer in our faculty. We also offer applied physics. We will be talking to the program director later, biomedical engineering and health science. So it's really quite a broad field.
Yeah.
Hanna, could you tell us a little bit about the sort of the general structure of the master program? So you already said normally it's 2 years.
Yes. So for chemical engineering, you have the first year is mainly courses. And then in the second year, you go on an internship, which you can do in the Netherlands or outside the Netherlands. You can do it in an institute or at a university. So in my case, I went to Spain and I went to an institute there. And then you do your master thesis. And for nanotechnology, the idea is the same, but the structure is a little bit switched. So in the first year, you do courses, but also your internship. And then in the second year, you do some more courses and you do your final thesis.
Okay, so the structure is you take courses, there is an internship, which is an assignment in a company or an institute.
Yes.
And there is a research assignment.
Yes, which is usually here at the university, but it's also possible to do it at another university.
And what kind of courses did you take?
So I focus in nanotechnology. You have different areas in which you can focus. And for me, my main focus has been more on the medical side, so the biomedical, bio-nanotechnology side. So for example, I took a course more focusing on hydrogels, for example, which is more specific chemically, but also more lab-on-a-chip courses, some more nanomedicine-related courses, and of course, the obligatory courses such as a quantum mechanics course, course in chemistry, a small course in electrical engineering because I don't have the electrical engineering background. And for chemical engineering, you can go more into organic or inorganic chemistry. And in my case, I focus more on organic chemistry.
Okay. So if I hear you correctly, then there's quite a lot of freedom.
Yes.
In choosing courses.
So I think you have about 4 to 5 courses, I believe. I'm not totally sure, 20 to 25 credits in total you can choose.
Okay, and it differs per program, I think.
Yes, and usually 1 or 2 of those courses you can choose everywhere, so you don't have to even stay within the faculty. You can choose any course you like from any program in the university.
All right.
So that's really fun. So if I would like, I can also do a psychology course.
Okay, so then you can really choose your own your own focus.
Yeah.
And Hanna, as you can see from the blonde hair, is a Dutch student. She did our bachelor also with us at the University of Twente. I actually know her well. And for international students like you watching from home, it might be interesting to know how the admission procedure works. International students apply for the University of Twente, of course, when you're still probably working on your bachelor's program. Most master programs here start in September. A couple of the programs in our faculty have a February start. So if you want to apply for September 2021, if you want to join us next year, when hopefully everything will be largely back to normal.
We hope.
Yeah. Application already starts the 1st of October, so that's pretty soon. The admission of your application is then looked at by the faculty, but before you apply, we have an eligibility check. If you go to our website, which you can find in the email that you received, if you go to the website, you can do an eligibility check. There's a couple of things, obviously, that are important. Is your previous education, your bachelor, related to the field that you're applying for? If you want to study nanotechnology like Hannah, then of course a background in, I don't know, anthropology is not sufficiently relevant. And then we also look at the courses that you took. If there was thermodynamics in your bachelor and sufficient calculus and chemistry, that information you can find in the eligibility check, which you can do online. And that gives you a pretty good idea of whether, when you apply, your application will be approved or not. Yeah. And we actually look at each application individually. There's persons that look at that, not just a computer.
No, and so for example, for me, because I have the chemical engineering background, I was directly eligible for the chemical engineering master. But for nanotechnology, I didn't have sufficient background in physics. So I had to do a small program called a pre-master in which of 10 weeks, in which I completed some courses to make sure that I have sufficient background also for nanotechnology. And then also during the masters, it can be that you have some small courses, as I mentioned, for example, programming, and also as electrical engineering, you have a small course for that.
Yeah. So everybody is well prepared, I think, when they start. And our master's programs are all fully English taught and very international, depending on the program that you're in. Sometimes up to 50% of students is international.
Yeah, for nanotechnology, I think even more. I think it's up to 80% even non-Dutch.
What is that like?
It's a lot of fun, especially with nanotechnology, because you have all those different backgrounds already in the studies, and then also you have all the cultural backgrounds. So you really learn a lot about how to work in both multidisciplinary, but also a multicultural background, which I think is later on very interesting, because also often in a company, you don't only work with chemical engineers, for example, but also with an electrical engineer, and then it's nice to know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, we find it very important at the University of Twente that all our students, when they finish studying, are global citizens, that they know how to work in an international environment with people from different backgrounds. We actually also have workshops about intercultural communication in the master, so that people get to know each other and work together better.
Yeah.
So let's see. I was just starting to talk about the admission process. I told you about the eligibility check that you can do on the website. I told you that every application is looked at individually by the people in our faculty. And then if you hear that you're admitted, you receive an offer of admission, I think.
Yeah. You receive a letter,
Yeah, a letter of admission. And then the whole process starts. We'll also send you information about housing, because we help international students from outside Europe find housing. And we will tell you about the scholarships that you can apply for. The University of Twente offers a number of different scholarships. There's also scholarships for specific target groups. For example, the Mexican government offers a number of scholarships. So we'll send you information about that too. And then you can really start preparing for coming here to Enschede.
And later on, you will also hear from two fellow students of mine who actually went through getting a scholarship and went through the entire admission, and they can give you some more detail on what it's like and what you should expect.
Okay, that's cool. So is there any way that these guys can get that information in advance, or do they have to start the application first? Can they talk to a student before?
Yes, so it's an option if you would like to know somewhat more specifically about the program and which courses, etc., to do a Skype meeting in which you can talk to a student. So, for example, I also do those Skype meetings, and then you can basically ask any questions you possibly have. I have at least 2.5 hours planned for you, so you can ask every question you have and just get to know a bit more about what the program is really like, because right now we can of course only touch the surface.
Yeah.
So if you want to go in more deep and really talk about the courses, then you can do that.
Yeah. The students are really the experts. They know what they're talking about because they're doing it themselves. And then if you have specific questions, then a student can also put you in touch with one of the program staff members who can also look into your specific questions about application.
Yeah,
or
because
about
we
what you
don't
need to
know
do to
everything.
prepare. Yeah.
So we know a lot, and then Alexandra, for example, the study advisor, will know the rest.
Yeah. Okay, is there anything else that we need to talk about, Hannah? Anything that I forgot?
I think we have covered a lot.
Okay, yeah, I think so too. So if there was one thing that you could tell these students watching from home
About choosing
or whatever about the program, about why they should come to Twente, or why they should come to study nanotechnology or chemical engineering?
Well, I will say something about the university, which I think is really unique. As you already slightly mentioned, you say students, they know a lot. And really at this university, it is believed that students are bit the backbone of a university, you could say. So we're involved in basically every step. So for example, in this webinar, I contribute even though I'm not a staff member. And also the open days, they're more largely organized by students. And also evaluations, for example, after each course you will have an evaluation, and that evaluation is actually used to improve the course rather than just have it for fun, so to say. So I think that's really special, the influence of the students.
It's not just special. I think it's necessary, because if you talk about the quality of the program, I mean, Dutch universities in general are quite high ranked, and the University of Twente is doing really well in those rankings, also nationally and internationally. And I think one of the reasons for that is that our students give us feedback, because if they don't tell us what they think, then we cannot keep improving. And just staying at the same level is not enough. You have to
improve.
You have to keep improving. So it's really necessary for current students, and also for you as a new student to come in, to be prepared for that. We expect you to be critical, to share your opinions, and
in every way. Also, when a professor explains something and you say, oh no, I think this is not true, you can also of course not be like, oh, that's not true, why be so stupid? You have to be polite, but you can say something is not true, and then sometimes the professor says, okay, I will check it, I will come back to you, and then they always come back to you, and they will also admit it when they did actually make a mistake.
Yeah, but even if you're wrong as a student, I mean, you show that you're a
really
serious student, that you're involved, and that you're interested, and that you find it important enough to share your opinion. So I think, that's a good example of how things work here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was it for now, I think. Thanks, Hannah, for your insights.
No problem.
And
it was my pleasure.
Yeah. Then I'll continue talking to Stefan, who is the program director of Applied Physics. So that was the story from a student's perspective, from Hannah. We're now going to go to a conversation with Stefan, who is one of our program directors. Now joined by Stefan, program director for Applied Physics. Stefan, can you give a short introduction of yourself?
Yeah, Marijke, I can. My name is Stefan Kooi. I'm program director for the Applied Physics program here at the University of Twente. And in that sense, with a team of staff, I take care of the bachelor and master program in Applied Physics. On the side, I'm also a scientist working in nanoscience, surface science, in the physics of nanophases and interfaces and nanomaterials group, where I study processes at interfaces, both at a macroscopic but also at a nanoscale, which actually makes it very interdisciplinary, which is interesting for this discussion, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm hearing a lot of technical terms that don't immediately mean something to me, but I do notice that it's very interdisciplinary, as you say.
Yeah.
You're the program director of Applied Physics, but the research that you do could also be called nanotechnology, or maybe even chemistry.
Yes and no. Calling it chemistry is sort of a little bit too far-fetched.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But on the other hand, we do processes at interfaces which involve chemical processes. So in that sense, it is highly interdisciplinary. I agree with that. And that holds for all the disciplines we're discussing here. I mean, we're talking about chemical, we're talking about nano, and we're talking about applied physics. They're all very distinct. They're different. They attract different types of students. But on the other hand, we all, for example, work on materials, designing materials, making materials, using materials, to take just one example.
Yeah.
So in that sense, all these disciplines actually come together, and every discipline is different, but there's also a lot of, I'm not going to say overlap, but a lot of complementarity.
So is that something that the students will also see or notice when they study here?
Yes, I think they do, because in the end, and I understand you discussed that with Hannah earlier, that students actually go into these research groups, and these research groups where they do their final assignment, or maybe somewhere in the world an internship, they do that in these groups which are highly interdisciplinary. There's chemists, there's physicists, there's engineers, there's mechanical engineers, there's technicians, and they have all kinds of different backgrounds. So that's where you see that.
Yeah.
And then we have a lot of shared courses. I mean, there's courses in the applied physics program which are taken by nanotechnology students. There's courses in the nanotechnology curriculum which are taken by chemical science and engineering students. So in that sense, you meet everyone.
Yeah. It sounds like there's many options. That's something that I also discussed with Hannah just now. But how do students know what to choose?
Yeah, that's difficult. But on the other hand, there is a framework. Every program has a curriculum, which is a fixed curriculum in the sense that a number of courses are compulsory. You have to do that. But then there's a number of electives, and that's always difficult to choose. What do you want? And in the end, what you have to do is follow your heart. I mean, if you want to do material science, talk to the professors in material science, see what you like. If you want to do fluid physics, talk to the people in fluid physics, see what you like. If you want to do polymer chemistry, talk to these people and see whether that fits. Now, there's also study advisors who actually you can talk to for study planning, study advice, maybe together look for what suits your ambitions most.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important. I think that's what we do in science and technology and all the programs we're discussing today. We're actually really focused on getting students to do what they really like. And the advantage of that is that if you do something you really like, generally you're also good at it. It also works the other way around. If you're good at things, that's also the things you like to do. And whether that's chemistry, nanotechnology, or applied physics, depends a bit on your background, and it depends on what you want.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. But what if I'm a really ambitious student and I want to do everything?
Yeah, if you want to do everything, well, then I would say make a choice, because everything is too much. On the other hand, what we do see is that people wanting to do more than just the depth of applied physics, getting to know every detail of what the world around does, but they also want to do, for example, synthesis or make nanostructures or spend time in the clean room. They combine that with the nanotechnology program and look for a double degree. So they get 2 diplomas in the end. They do a lot more work, of course. You have to do more ECs. You do the compulsory courses of both programs and then choose the electives and find an internship, a final assignment, which sort of fits both programs. But you can do that. And the same holds, we have double students combining applied physics with chemical engineering. We have double students doing chemical engineering with nanotechnology. Doing all 3, I've never seen that. And I think it will be too far-fetched. And it will not add in the end.
Maybe a bit too much.
It will not add all 3.
Yeah. And now it sounds maybe like, because I just had Hannah here who studies, who combines 2 masters, and now you're talking about 2 masters. It's not like everybody does that.
No, let's be certain about that. It's only, we see that increasing because people in the world become more and more ambitious, and we like that. On the other hand, if you want to, for example, do nanotechnology courses in the applied physics program or in the chemical engineering program, you can still do that. I mean, it's not that the nanotechnology courses are forbidden if you do one of the other programs. No. You can still do that. That's what you have electives for. And as I mentioned in the start, I mean, research groups are still interdisciplinary. Whether you do nanotechnology or applied physics, you can still end up in the same research group or with the same professor.
Yeah, so students have a lot of freedom also to take elective courses and extra courses. Yep. And they have the freedom to choose where they're going to do their final assignment. Yep. It's not like they're put in a research group. They can choose.
No, that's their own choice.
Yeah. And I'd also like to mention, if you remember, I'm the coordinator for international affairs. We were talking about these double masters, but we also have double degree programs with international partners. So for example, if you study chemical engineering and then the materials track, we have a double master program with the University of Parma in Italy. And so that means that you take the first year of courses in Twente, and then the second year you take courses in Parma and do your research assignment there. And then you get diplomas from both the University of Twente and University of Parma. And that is not the only example. We have a couple of these double degree programs, and I think that's also a nice opportunity for students seeking for an international experience.
Which we actually motivate students to do. Don't forget to say that. I mean, we actually and of course, people coming from abroad into the Netherlands, that's already a culture change. But our own students, we motivate them to move abroad for a shorter or a longer period, doing courses, doing internships, or even a master assignment, to sort of see how science, or in all its aspects, is done in other cultures, other parts of the world. And I think that's very important. I mean, that sort of that not only multidisciplinary in terms of topics, but also intercultural in terms of what you experience.
Yeah.
Besides the knowledge.
Can you give an example of an internship for an applied physics student, or maybe a couple of examples to illustrate the variety?
Yeah, you can do an internship at a company right across the...
How much time do students spend doing an internship?
Yeah, our students do 20 ECs, that's 1/3 of a year, typically 4 months. And that can be with a company or it can be with an institute. If it's an institute, it has to be abroad. But you can spend time working on a project with a company, and that can be sort of a kilometer down the street if you want to join that company, because we have fantastic companies in the region. On the other hand, if you want to sort of experience science in Australia or Japan or Brazil, there's options to do that in an internship. You can do that in the final assignment. There's options enough. And we see a lot of students doing that. So some of them move to Australia and they do not exactly, but very similar work to what we do here. And they still come back with loads of experience that science is still a lot different. The equipment is the same because they use the same atomic force microscope, the same techniques, but the people are different, and they find out that life is different, and that also has an aspect on what they do. So it really adds in that sense. The opportunities are endless, and going to a company doesn't have to be a technology company. It can also be a bank working with artificial intelligence. It can be anything.
Yeah, so it's really an opportunity to get to know the world that you're going to end up in after graduation. Yeah.
And I want to stress that is not only in research, because people always tend to say, well, masters are only focused on research. Only 30% of our students, and I think that is for applied physics and nanotechnology alike, and chemical engineering similar, not only 30% continue research, the others move to companies, organizations outside the research. They still use their knowledge and their experience as an academic. But they do a lot of different things, which is fun to see where all your alumni end up.
It must be.
Yeah.
Looking at the time, I think we have to move to the final question, and I realize I'm putting you on the spot a bit here. I know that you're very experienced as a program director, as a teacher, as a scientist. Looking at the people there, what type of student would you want to apply for your program? What kind of person, what kind of student would do well?
That's 2 questions in one. What students will do one, and what students do we want? You would say you want the best students. Of course, that's nice, but being the best student is not always the perfect student. If I would have to say what is a good student, which students do we want in our program, have to be motivated, eager to learn, not afraid to work hard, because that is something which we always tend to forget. Studying is still hard work. You have to spend time on that. On the other hand, what I also would like a good student is someone who's motivated to do actually 3 things. Sort of generate more obtain more knowledge, and in that sense generate knowledge, but also become a good academic. I mean, you have to be able to be critical, be aware of your position in society, in science. And the last one is also building a network. I mean, you also have to be eager. I mean, being a good scientist may be done in a sort of attic at your parents or wherever, but you also have to engage with others and other colleagues. And I mean, the social aspect is also important. And that's, I think, what we do at this university very well. We have a fantastic campus. Anyway, I'm not going to... Does that answer your question, Marijke?
It answers my question, and I hope that the people there that recognize themselves in this picture that Stefan sketched will get in touch with us. Thanks very much for your
You're
time,
welcome.
Stefan. And we'll go on to the next section.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
So we heard all about education from Stefan. I'm now interested in a lecturer's perspective. So let's talk to David. Okay, we're back, and I'm joined by David, who is one of our teachers and scientists. Can you introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah. So my name is David Fernandez Rivas, and I'm originally from Cuba. And I'm associate professor here at the University of Twente. But I came originally to do my PhD. Eventually, I started a company, became postdoc, and got into a tenure track. And now I'm happy here to tell you a bit more about what we can do here in Twente.
Wow, that's already quite a career. When did you start at the UT? How long did this
Yes,
take
so
you?
my PhD started in 2007. And well, I started then as assistant professor in 2014. So
Yeah.
I've been around quite a long time.
Okay, so you're an expert.
Yeah, I like to think of it.
And can you tell me a little bit about the topic of your research? What do you do?
So I have two main lines of research. One has to do with bioengineering and developing new technologies to deliver drugs without needles, so needle-free injections. And the second line of research has to do with green technology, so new methods, for example, to create hydrogen or to utilize ultrasound for water treatment. So it's very broad, but the main ingredient is innovation and trying to apply scientific knowledge to solve real-life problems in the shortest time possible.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that sounds really interesting and relevant also. If you look at your research and then the educational programs that we're talking about, which programs would your research be linked to?
Yeah, so there's a strong connection to the chemical disciplines because when I mentioned earlier that we use new technologies like microfabrication to develop new type of reactors, then almost any reactor that you know in real life could be downscale, but the science is not the same for larger scale than to smaller scale. So I have a strong connection there, but also applied physics and almost any type of research that you could think has an impact in society could, let's say, connect to what I do. And actually, sometimes I connect directly to, for example, social scientists, because sometimes there are ethical issues that needs to be solved way before you have a solution or a product that you want to bring to the market.
Yeah, that's very interdisciplinary too. And are students involved in your research group?
Yeah, definitely. So I have several examples where bachelor and master students have participated in research that eventually got published. And well, most of the work that we do in the labs is carried out by either master students or even PhD students. So I think it's fundamental. Without the students, we wouldn't be able to do all the cool things we do.
So what do the students do? Do they get your coffee or do your photocopying?
No, I prefer to have, let's say, my own coffee prepared by myself. Here students receive a lot of responsibilities. So one of the key features that Twente has is that the student has a lot of freedom to do things their own way. But of course, that would mean that the student is responsible and knows how to handle his own time. So we don't do micromanagement. I won't be telling every day what to do. So students need to be self-driven and mature enough to take up the challenge of the specific project that is working on.
And are students prepared for that?
Well, yes, I think there's as an evidence, I've been around for a while and also successfully supervised many students. And as I mentioned earlier, are co-authors in many of my publications. So that is already an indication that the quality of our students is good enough, not only to excel while we are here, but many of those students eventually go to other universities or industry, and they are very happy they're now working.
Yeah. Yeah, we have great alumni, a good network.
Yeah.
And I know that you're also a very active teacher, lecturer, that you developed several courses. Can you tell me a little bit what it's like teaching here at the University of Twente? What do your courses look like?
So I'm teaching mostly at the master's level. So already there's an advantage in having smaller groups because it allows you to build a better relationship with the students. If you would be sitting in a classroom with 1,000 students, then it's almost impossible to get some rapport. But the good thing of teaching here is that then some of these students that come for a course with you 1 or 2 years later come back for advice or looking for an internship or even making their final project in our group. So it gives a good feeling that you're having an impact on the education of younger generations, because you can more or less remember at least their faces. I'm very good with faces, not so much with names, but I think that's a big plus of Twente.
Yeah. I think it's good that David mentions this. I don't know if all of you know, but the University of Twente is one of the smaller universities in the Netherlands, and that means that the groups are not so big. For example, chemical engineering has about 50 students intake per year in the masters, and nanotechnology is an even smaller a program. So you really know students' faces, and the relationship between students and lecturers is quite informal. I think that most students will call you David, right?
Oh, yes.
Not Professor Fernandez.
No, yeah.
No.
First step is to please call me David, and then we have an open door policy.
Yeah.
So unless I'm busy in the office or not around, so people can always drop an email or knock on the door if there's something urgent that needs to be resolved.
I really like that atmosphere, that for students it's easy to just walk, just send a quick email. Of course, in this situation, you cannot just drop into to someone's office, but because they've seen your face before, because they've seen you in an online lecture, the relationship is there, and they can just address their questions. And that is the same with program staff. So Stefan mentioned earlier, every program has a study advisor who is there for you to answer questions, to help you make the choices for elective courses and to plan your study. They are also really approachable. So I think that's one of the real strengths of this university. I also briefly wanted to touch upon, in the beginning when you introduced yourself, you also mentioned that you started a company. Is that like a spin-off from the research that you did?
Yeah. So when I was finishing my PhD, came this sort of question, what comes next? So we had a very interesting result, and together with a colleague of mine, we decided to start up a company. And well, his PhD topic was relatively close to mine, so we managed to fund a company in 2013. So it's still alive, and we are commercializing an interesting cleaning device. If you want to know more, just drop me an email. But now I'm in conversation with the university to launch a new spin-off company based on needle-free injections. So if some of you are afraid of needles, I don't know if you're afraid of needles.
No.
Okay, good. But there are a lot of people who would prefer to have medications or any treatment done without needles. So I'm now in that stage. So for those of you, I don't know if you already introduced, the University of Twente had a slogan for many years, which was the Entrepreneurial University. And well, I start reading that label in front of the building when I was coming to the university. And slowly with time, you get the idea of what does it mean. And well, it's an interesting path for many of you who would like to explore. You don't need to wait until you finish a PhD. Here you have the opportunity already as a student in the bachelor level or master level to screen whether your idea has potential to be deployed into society. So for that, we have novelty here. So it's some sort of valorization or knowledge utilization office at the university. So that's an interesting path for most of you who have cool ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely always space for cool ideas, and not always space, but also support available in the form of like small subsidies or office spaces that you can use. Experienced entrepreneurs that you can ask for advice. A network is
and joining
the most important thing.
Joining companies that are already in the making here. So there are many opportunities. Yeah,
that's really I think one of the strengths of this university. Looking at the time, I think we're going to have to start about rounding up. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here and ask you maybe a difficult question. There's a lot of people watching this webinar, but what kind of students do we want to apply? What, according to you, what makes a good student?
So I would like, obviously, to see many features from my own set of skills. But I think it's important in a teamwork, which is what also defines how we work here in Twente. Nobody can work alone on the topics that we are working. So I think it's important for a student to realize which are the strong points that he has or she has, and then try to adapt to the circumstances. So that means that having some level of maturity, so you don't need to be that old you might learn in the process, but be aware of what your limits are, and definitely being willing to work hard, because, well, you have here a lot of equipment, a lot of support from human, let's say human support. So you have advisors, you have teachers, but nothing will come interesting unless you as a student put from your own time and your own effort. So commitment, discipline, and working hard.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good summary. So willing to work hard, knowing yourself, and be motivated, and being a team player.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so you know what we're looking for. I think this is the point where we'll say goodbye to David, and thank you very much for your time and for your answers. I will also be saying goodbye to you for now, because you're gonna be listening to two international students, so the real experts, and then I'll be back for the Q&A. So see you later.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much, Mareike. So now we will share our perspective as international students. So I will start by introducing myself. My name is Carlos. I am about to finish my master's program in nanotechnology. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Paloma. I'm also about to finish my master degrees in chemical engineering. I'm also part of the program committee within the chemical engineering. And yeah, why don't we share a little bit more of how is it to be living here?
Yeah, I think that's a good starting point. For instance, what I found really interesting is, I mean, coming from a country like Mexico, where it's sometimes really difficult to take your bike and go to university. That was impressive since I arrived here, like the huge amount of bikes that I saw in the Netherlands. And for instance, I just make 7 minutes from where I'm living to the university, which is nothing.
Yeah, actually the distances are so close that in 30 minutes you're just in Germany, for instance, or in 2 hours you're already in Amsterdam. I really like the location here. It's very comfortable.
Yeah, also if you have just you want just to chill out on a weekend, you can easily cycle around 20 minutes and you will be already enjoying a nice view on the lake. So yeah, there are plenty of opportunities. There are plenty of parks and recreational areas close by. So I think the city itself is really, really cozy. And yeah.
Do you go there very often?
Yeah, I think, yes, with this nice weather that we've had the last couple of days.
Oh, yes. Very
we
nice.
had to take advantage of that. So
very sunny.
yeah,
Indeed.
it was good. And yeah, also what I found really interesting was like the city itself is like a student city, right?
Yes.
The city center itself, you can enjoy plenty of things. There are plenty of activities.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of activities related to university, right?
Yes, there are a lot of associations, and they make a very good combination between research but also taking profit of it. For instance, I think you're a member of La Voz, which is a Latin association.
Yeah,
right?
that's also a great experience, and for us as international students, I mean, from the beginning, it is really important to make some friends, right? So these are really good opportunities to find some good friends from the beginning. And yeah, also as you mentioned, it is a combination with the university, since you are, for instance, part of the Chemical Engineering Association.
Yes, yes. There is also Alembic, for example, and that provides you good to be in fun, but also it has some activities which are related to study. For instance, how is it for you being at the university studying here?
Yeah, well, first of all, why don't we say why we actually decided to study at the university, right? So I think at least for my case, I had the opportunity to go on an exchange program.
Really?
And since there, I just decided that I wanted to continue my graduate studies in a foreign country, right? So I think you had a similar experience.
Yes, I did an internship here, well, in another region, but in the Netherlands too. I liked it so much that I decided to come back here, and I really liked everything that it's here. For me, in the chemical engineering department, I love laboratory, and it's super nice that they actually allow you to use very important equipment as a student. I really like that, things that you would not see in
So
other
often.
places so often. Yes.
Yeah, I think for me, what was really impressive was the fact that you can actually work in the same lab. So, for instance, in the clean room facilities of the university, where you can actually observe the combination of research and at the same time some companies working in the same environment. So you can, yeah, see how they are doing some research in some hot topic and at the same time developing already a product, which I find really interesting. It also, as you mentioned previously, it gives you some hand-on skills that will help you in your further professional career.
Yes, indeed. For instance, where I did my internship here in the master, within the master program, it led me to do later my master thesis, and now I already have a job.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's good because everything is linked and it's provided, so you can just start as a professional with your professional life.
Yeah, I think, and also there are plenty of opportunities to become an entrepreneurial. And yeah, so for instance, there's this novelty
Oh, yes.
part of the university with which they will help you develop your ideas. For instance, there's also this the University of Twente,
Challenge?
the UT Challenge, indeed,
Yes.
where you have the opportunity to develop a product, or if you already have a startup, you can further develop or elaborate on that. As I had the opportunity, as you can see in this picture, to participate with some fellow students on a novel sensor, which later we won some prize. So
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very nice. Actually, I'm also part now of a contest for sensors too,
Mhm.
and it's gonna be in a few days. But it's super nice.
Yeah.
So,
It's exciting
Carlos,
that-
would you give us would you give them some tips? Do you have something?
Yeah, I
to say?
think what I think is really important is if you're planning to study on September 2021, you have to really start the whole process in advance, because you have to consider that some procedures take really long time. So you have to schedule like the English test. You have to translate some documents or whatever, which will take you some time. So
Yes, indeed. And if you also need to get a little bit more support, I think this university and also the country, it's very willing to do it because we both, as you can see in the picture, we both have a scholarship provided by the university, and that's very handy. But of course, you have to accomplish some requirements, and you have to do everything in advance. But the opportunity is possible.
yeah, as you mentioned, I think it is a great opportunity for us, especially as international students, where sometimes it is a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I think overall the main tip is to start in advance with the whole process. And also for my case, while I was doing the whole admission process, I was constantly in contact with the advisors, which really helped me. I received a lot of input on my documents, so yeah,
Yes.
in that sense, I think it is really helpful
And
also to be in contact.
And I think that's also a very important point that you mentioned, because they are all willing to help, and the communication that you have also with teachers, it's very nice. They are open to talk to you, to see you as in the same level. There are no levels.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
a
super
good-
super nice.
Yeah, and sometimes, well, when I talk to some friends, they tell me, "Hey, but aren't you scared of like not speaking your own language?" And yeah, probably at the beginning it's a little bit difficult.
Yes.
But yeah, then you realize that
We are all in the
this,
same
in this international environment, yeah, we're all in the same level. And here you will not struggle at all on going to the supermarket or anything, because you can easily communicate in English.
Yes.
So
And they will actually try to help you. For me, at least, when they saw me, like I was like, "What is this?" They approached to me, and that's very nice to receive the help.
yeah, so I hope that our experience helped you a little bit to get a little bit of insight of how is actually living here in the Netherlands, and more specifically here in the Twente region. So Yeah, we hope and we wish you all the best in the upcoming months.
And all
Yeah.
the process. Yes, indeed. And we might see each other soon.
Yeah, thanks.
So we're back for the Q&A session. I'm here with Carlos and Paloma, since the room in the studio is limited, is behind us on the screen, but she will hear everything that we say. We've been keeping note of the questions that you've been posing in the chat, but keep on writing them down, and we'll do our best to answer all of them. We don't want to take too long, but there's always opportunities to contact us after this webinar if you have more questions. The first question that was asked in the chat was about the double master and how to pay the tuition fee, or how much it would be. Actually, if you take a double master program at the UT, so you get two diplomas, for example, for the combination of nanotechnology and chemical engineering, like Hannah that I just talked to, but you pay tuition fee for only one program. However, you do take longer. So you pay the single tuition fee per year, but maybe you take 3 years instead of 2 years. So in the end, it costs you a little bit more money, but you don't have to pay for two full degrees. Then there was another question related to double degree programs, so I think we'll address that first. It was when to apply for a double degree program. Well, the good news is that you can do that while you are already here. So you don't have to decide before you come to Enschede, because there are so many choices to make already. And then when you're here, you have to choose your track and you have to choose your electives. But for example, if in your first quarter or semester here, you do really well, you get really good grades, and you decide that you want an extra challenge and you're interested and motivated, then you can go talk to your study advisor. We've heard that before today, so that's a member of the program staff that you can always go to with questions and then discuss the possibilities. I don't know, Carlos, if you want to elaborate on that.
Yes, I think as you just mentioned, don't rush in making such a decision, because at the end you can decide whether you go to a certain track or another, and maybe your decisions change in this time. So it's good to probably just to wait a bit and then just decide once you're here at the university. It's a good option. Yeah.
Okay, so much for the double degree questions. Another one, let me see. Is there an admission fee for application to programs? In the Faculty of Science and Technology, we do not charge an admission fee. So if you start your application, you do not have to pay in advance. If you are considering enrolling for one of the other degrees at the UT, some do charge a small admission fee to consider your application. So keep an eye out when you're applying. But if you're applying for our program, so chemical engineering, applied physics, nanotechnology, biomedical engineering, there is no admission fee. Then another question about admission that maybe Paloma can answer. The question was, if you apply and you want to start in September 2021, does it matter that you graduate, for example, in May or June? When do you have to have everything finished when you apply?
Yes, actually, if you want to start in September 2021, it's good to be finished. I think the final deadline was in May. So before May, it's okay. It depends, of course, on the university, because some have deadlines, for instance, in February, March, April, or May. And yes, you need to have your diploma, or at least be already graduated.
Yeah, well, you have to start your application before the 1st of May. That is right. But if you still have a course to finish, I see Carlos nodding.
So I think probably for my case, I think I graduated around March, but then I still didn't get my diploma until 1 or 2 days before coming to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So I think as long as you have your diploma right before you start your program, it shouldn't be a problem at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the short summary is you can start your application even if you haven't completely finished your bachelor's, as long as you finish it before you come here.
Yeah, indeed.
Thanks, guys. What else? Yeah. How to
Mhm.
organize a Skype meeting with a student, for example, if people really liked seeing you talk about your study programs and your enthusiasm, they want to talk with you more, or maybe one of the other students from your program. How would they contact
Yeah.
you?
So I think they can first contact probably the director of the program, and then I don't know if he could direct us to one of us, one
Yeah.
of student.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
certainly one way. There's also many other possibilities. For example, there's also a Spanish Facebook website for the
Yeah,
University of
true.
Twente that is
Yeah.
constantly monitored by one of our students.
Yeah,
So
by
that is a
Luis.
good way to get in touch. You can send an email to study@utwente.nl, and then they'll put you in touch with a student of the study program that you're interested in, for you to chat with or to have a Skype meeting with. So there's lots of ways to get in touch with us, and you'll also receive information about that in the email that you receive after this webinar, because we'd really like to keep in touch with you. So please keep an eye out.
Yeah, and then I think we have another question related probably to the living expenses here in
Mhm.
some way. So how much money do you have to save, even holding a scholarship? And so I think for this you could visit the page from the university. I think they have a guideline. Well, like a detailed description, or more or less what are the living expenses here in the Netherlands. And of course that will vary a bit, but yeah, I think in general there are even some ways to save some money. But yeah, I will say first check the university page, and then probably you could, if you contact one of the students, you could probably share the experience a little bit
Mhm.
with with the specific case.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah. And the same holds more or less for the question about scholarships. We have lots of information about scholarships on the website. It will be sent to you automatically once you start your application. The University of Twente offers UT scholarships, which are a possibility for international students. And there's also dedicated scholarships for example, Mexican students or that are offered by the government. We have a whole list of it on the website. But maybe, Paloma, you could share some personal experiences with applying for a scholarship and getting a scholarship.
Yes, indeed. I see that we already share the page where you can have an insight of how much will it cost. As Carlos mentioned, of course, it will depend on your lifestyle. But for instance, I applied for 2 different scholarships and I got the opportunity to have them both. One from the University of Twente and another one from the government of the Netherlands. And yes, it is a great help, but to know a little bit more how much money you will need to save, I think it depends a lot on your personal life, but you can take a look into the page.
Yeah.
But yes, try to apply to as many scholarships as possible, because they actually give you a lot of opportunities to come here.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of scholarship opportunities in general. They look at your your grades in your previous education, also your motivation, but grades and extracurricular activities are very important. So try to keep doing your best if you're not already doing so.
Yes.
So let me see. Another question. If you have a diploma in chemical engineering and you want to be admitted in another one relevant, for example, nanotechnology, what do you need to do and when before being admitted to like a pre-master? Yes, I saw a question about pre-masters before. The bad news is we don't offer pre-master programs, but we do look at your previous education. For example, University of Twente doesn't have a bachelor's in nanotechnology. our nanotechnology students come from everywhere. As you know, there's
Yes.
people with a chemical engineering background, a physics background, electrical engineering background, biomedical background. And during the first semester, there is a couple of sort of basic courses to get everyone
Level.
up to the same level. So we look at your previous education, and then when you're admitted straight into the master's program.
Can I? Yeah, I
Yeah,
have actually
absolutely.
an experience with that because first I tried to apply for another master's, and they checked my background, and they indeed let me know like you're still on time to apply for something else. Unfortunately, you're not eligible for this. However, this suits you, and this is a track that I'm doing right now,
Mhm.
and it was a very good option.
Yeah, did it suit
Indeed.
you really?
Yes, because I took I tried to apply for biomedical, and when I took some courses of that, I saw that indeed I didn't have enough background
Mm-hmm.
to succeed in that. However, the master that I'm doing right now, the track, it is what I wanted.
Yeah.
So if you do everything on time, they can tell you whether you are eligible or not, and if not, then you can have more options and apply again.
Yeah.
That's not a problem.
Yeah. And I think that's a good example of what I said when I was talking to Stefan. I think we do consider every application individually. So we do
Yes.
look at your application. We do read your motivation letter. And if we think that you're not a good fit, then it's probably true, but we'll help you find an alternative if we have it. And otherwise, yeah. So
I think we have
Yeah.
another question here. So I heard that Twente offers housing for the first year. Is this included in the tuition fees, or do we have to pay rent? So I think, yeah, what the university does is they help you in finding a place, especially for international students, since it is a bit difficult for us to find a place where to live. So there's this webpage called RoomSpot where you can find plenty of opportunities, but this is not included in the tuition fee. So all of these housing options are, yeah, you have to pay them separately. Yeah.
but we do have a guaranteed offer for non-EU students. So for those of you that don't have an EU nationality, you will receive an offer of housing. So you are sure that you can live somewhere.
Yeah.
And then
that's
it's
true.
up to you to accept it, because you're also free to find
Somewhere.
your own place to live. And that is indeed for the first year. And then we hope that after that you've made some friends and gotten to know some people.
Yeah.
And then you will find your own
Your own place.
place. Yeah. So that is how it works.
Yeah, I think at least that was also my case. So first, during my first year, I was living at this ITC hotel, and then after that, yeah, I just decided to move by myself.
Yeah.
For a city. But yeah, there's plenty of opportunity. But indeed, we as international students, it's always a good option to take a look to these options that the university offers.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I see that some information about housing is shared in the chat now as well. David is leaving, but sharing his email address.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what the
I think
contact with lecturers here is like. I think feel
Yeah.
very free. It's
Mm.
getting quiet in the
yeah, I
in the
think-
chat, so I think for now we can call it a day.
Mhm.
So thank you very much for joining us. We hope that you also enjoyed watching and listening to this webinar. We hope that you will consider applying for studying here, but not, of course, before you find more information, because what can you learn from 1 hour? Please check our website via the link that we will send you by email. Contact us via study@utwente.nl. And yeah,
Yeah.
what else? I'd like to thank Carlos and Paloma for helping me so much. And Carlos, can I give you the floor for the last
Yeah.
famous words?
Of course. Well, thank you very much for joining us in this webinar. I hope that you are inspired to continue your graduate studies here at the University of Twente. I hope that we answer all your questions.